Welcome everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins, where everyday pocket change can turn into unexpected treasures, and in today's journey we are going to unravel the surprising story behind a seemingly ordinary 1986 1-cent coin that, due to its remarkable errors and intriguing history, can be worth as much as $362, turning something you might pass over without a second thought into a genuine collector's prize. And while that figure might not seem like millions, it is still astonishing when you consider that this coin originally had a face value of just 1 cent, making it an increase in value of over 36,000%, and to truly understand why a 1986 penny can fetch that price, we need to explore not just its background but also the fascinating mistakes, minting errors, and possibilities that contribute to its high demand among numismatists. Starting with the historical context of 1986 itself, a year in which the US Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents, continuing the design tradition with Abraham Lincoln's bust on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, both struck in copper-plated zinc, a composition that had been introduced only a few years earlier in 1982 when the Mint shifted from the heavier 95% copper planchets to the lighter zinc cores clad in a thin copper layer to save production costs as the price of copper rose, and this change brought its own set of challenges, as the new copper plated zinc blanks were more prone to striking issues, plating bubbles, and other anomalies that could slip through quality control, making error coins from this era particularly interesting to collectors. And in 1986, the Mint struck these cents at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with the Philadelphia coins lacking a mint mark, the Denver coins bearing a small d, and San Francisco producing proof coins for collectors. But even with advanced machinery, human oversight, and strict standards, errors happened, and these errors could range from minor die cracks to spectacular double strikes, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and even rare wrong planchet errors where a cent was struck on a dime or foreign coin blank. And in the case of the rare 1986 1 cent that commands $362, its value often comes from combinations of such errors and from the condition in which the coin has been preserved. Because coin grading plays a massive role in value, with coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC at higher mint state levels commanding much more than heavily circulated pieces, and one of the most desirable error types in 1986 cents is the double die, where the design elements, often the date, the motto "In God We Trust," or the lettering "In Liberty and United States of America," appear double due to a misalignment during the hubbing process of the dies. And when these doubling effects are strong and visible to the naked eye, collectors flock to acquire them, especially if the coin is also in excellent condition. Another type of error that has boosted the value of certain 1986 cents is off-center striking, where the blank planchet was not seated correctly in the collar during striking, resulting in a coin with a portion of the design missing or shifted, and depending on how far off-center the strike is, the value can increase significantly, with dramatic off-center strikes showing 50% or more blank area being among the most valuable. And then there are broad strikes, which occur when a coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing the metal to spread out and create a larger than normal diameter, giving the coin a stretched appearance and making it stand out immediately in a collection. And of course there are the wrong planchet errors, which are highly sought after because they are so rare. Imagine a 1986 cent struck on a dime planchet, resulting in a smaller, thinner coin with partial designs missing, or on a foreign planchet intended for another country, which sometimes happened when the Mint was producing coins for foreign governments alongside US coinage, and these wrong planchet errors can easily push a coin's value into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the exact type. And another error worth noting is the clipped planchet, where a section of the blank is missing due to a misfeed in the punching process, creating a coin with a crescent-shaped bite taken out of it, which can add appeal to error collectors. And in the case of a 1986 penny worth $362, it is often a combination of error rarity, strong visual appeal, and pristine condition that sets it apart from the countless ordinary examples still circulating today. But even ordinary cents from 1986 can have value if they are in superb gem uncirculated condition, free of scratches, spots, and marks, because top pop examples, meaning the finest known coins of their type, often attract competitive bidding from collectors trying to complete registry sets, and that competitive bidding is exactly what can turn a coin that might seem worth only a few dollars into one worth hundreds. And beyond the errors and grades, there is also the human factor, the stories that coins carry, the way they link us to the past, the idea that the very penny you might find in change today could have traveled through countless hands over nearly 4 decades, survived recessions, economic booms, and cultural shifts, yet still retained its original beauty or carried an unusual flaw that escaped the mint's watchful eye. And part of what makes the 1986 penny particularly interesting is that it comes from the first full year of production after the US Mint adopted new automated die-making processes, which, while improving efficiency, also introduced new types of errors that were previously less common, like die deterioration doubling, plating blisters from imperfect copper cladding, and unusual planchette flaws where the zinc core was exposed in small patches, creating a coin with a distinct appearance, and while plating blisters or zinc rot usually lower a coin's value, in some rare cases they can create unique patterns that attract niche collectors, and the appeal of owning a coin with a documented mint error is enhanced by the fact that no two error coins are exactly alike, each has its own story, and even coins of the same date and mint can have wildly different errors, making them more like individual works of art than mass-produced currency. And when you combine that uniqueness with a year like 1986, which is old enough to have seen most of its mintage worn down in circulation but recent enough for collectors to remember finding them in their change as kids, you get a perfect recipe for nostalgia-driven demand, and the demand drives prices higher, especially for those few coins that have been preserved in mint state with dramatic, eye-catching errors. So the next time you come across a 1986 penny, take a close look under good lighting. Check for doubling in the date and lettering, inspect the edges for signs of an off-center strike or a clipped planchette, and weigh it if you suspect it might be on the wrong planchette, because that humble coin in your hand could be worth far more than a cent, and if it happens to have one of those rare errors in excellent condition, it might just be one of those $362 treasures that prove why coin collecting remains such an exciting hobby, where history, art, technology, and chance all come together in a way that rewards the curious and observant. And as you can see, the world of error coins is endlessly fascinating, with each find adding to the rich tapestry of numismatic history. And if you enjoy exploring these stories of how small details turn common coins into valuable collectibles, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss more incredible tales from the world of coins and currency. Next, we uncover the hidden treasures that could be sitting quietly in your pocket change, tucked away in a jar, or resting unnoticed in a drawer. And today we are diving deep into the remarkable story of the 2000 AD Lincoln 1-cent coin, a piece that at first glance might look like just another ordinary penny but in reality can be worth as much as $292 due to its unique combination of minting errors, production anomalies, and the ever-increasing interest among collectors for coins that stand out from the billions produced each year. And while this number might seem modest compared to coins valued in the thousands or millions, it is still an incredible leap from its face value of just 1 cent, which makes it a fascinating example of how numismatics transforms everyday objects into valuable artifacts. So to truly appreciate why this year, mint mark, and set of potential errors can command such attention, we need to set the stage by exploring the historical, technical, and collector-driven factors that contribute to this valuation, starting with the year 2000 itself, a time when the United States Mint was still producing the long-running Lincoln Memorial cent design that had been in use since 1959, featuring the bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and the coins struck at the Denver Mint in 2000 were composed of copper-plated zinc, a metal composition introduced in 1982 to replace the 95% copper planchets used for decades before, primarily as a cost-saving measure due to rising copper prices. And while the switch was financially sensible, the copper-plated zinc planchets introduced new production challenges because the thin copper layer could sometimes blister, bubble, or separate from the zinc core, and these issues, combined with normal striking errors, gave rise to a variety of collectible mistakes that can greatly increase a coin's value. And for the 2000 AD cent, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of coins that year, meaning most examples are common, but within that vast sea of ordinary strikes are the rare anomalies, coins struck off-center, with double dies, broad strikes, wrong planchets, die cracks, clipped planchets, or other dramatic flaws, that turn a simple penny into a sought-after collectible. And one of the most famous error types in the 2000 AD cents is the double die, where a misalignment during the die hubbing process causes certain design elements, such as the date, mint mark, or lettering in God We Trust and Liberty, to appear doubled, sometimes subtly and sometimes dramatically enough to be seen with the naked eye. And when this doubling is strong, crisp, and on important design features, the value can soar, especially when the coin is in high mint state condition. Another error that makes certain 2000 AD cents valuable is the off-center strike, which occurs when the blank planchette is not properly seated in the striking chamber and ends up being struck with the design shifted away from the center, leaving part of the coin blank and part with incomplete or misaligned imagery. And the more dramatic the off-center, especially when the date is still fully visible, the more desirable the piece becomes. Then there are broad strikes, which happen when a coin is struck without the restraining collar, allowing the metal to spread out wider than normal and producing a stretched, misshapen appearance that catches a collector's eye instantly. And the 2000 D penny is also known to appear occasionally on the wrong planchette, meaning it was struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin, and this can result in unusual size, weight, or coloration differences, such as a cent struck on a dime planchette, making it smaller, thinner, and with parts of the design missing. And these wrong planchette errors are particularly rare, often commanding several $100s or more. And another category of collectible errors includes clipped planchets, where the blank metal disc has a crescent-shaped section missing because it was punched from a sheet of metal too close to a previous punch hole. And while these errors can occur in many years, finding one on a high-grade 2000 AD cent makes it much more valuable. Then we must also talk about die cracks and cuds, where the striking die itself develops breaks or chips, transferring raised lines or blobs of metal onto the coin's surface. And larger, more dramatic cuds, especially those affecting key design elements, are particularly sought after by specialists. And in the case of the copper-plated zinc cents, plating errors are another unique factor, with some coins exhibiting bubbling or peeling of the copper layer, revealing the silvery zinc core beneath. And while severe damage from corrosion or zinc rot generally lowers value, certain striking plating anomalies can be considered collectible if they are clearly mint-made, symmetrical, and dramatic, and condition is an essential factor here, because even the most impressive error loses much of its potential if the coin is heavily circulated, scratched, or corroded, which is why professional grading by services such as PCGS or NGC can greatly influence market value, often pushing a coin closer to the $292 figure if it receives a high mint state grade like MS66 or MS67 along with its documented error. And it's important to note that the demand for these coins doesn't just come from error collectors but also from people who build date and mint mark sets, registry sets, or thematic collections, which means that in certain cases, even an ordinary-looking but extremely high-grade 2000 AD cent without dramatic errors can still be worth more than $1. But when you combine a strong mint state grade with a striking and rare error, you reach the territory where a penny can command hundreds. And another reason the 2000 AD cent attracts attention is because it sits at an interesting point in the Lincoln cents history, just a few years before the U.S. Mint would make major design changes in 2009 for the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth, and also at a time when the Mint was refining its high-speed production processes, sometimes leading to new types of mechanical doubling or striking anomalies that can confuse beginner collectors but fascinate experts. And the Denver Mint in particular has a history of producing coins with distinctive minor varieties and anomalies that later become favorites in the numismatic community. And when you think about the fact that hundreds of millions of these pennies were minted and then spread across the country in everyday transactions, the odds of finding one of these special errors are slim, but not impossible, which is part of what keeps the treasure hunting excitement alive for collectors and hobbyists alike. Because there's something thrilling about knowing that a coin worth hundreds could appear in your pocket change at any moment, and part of the value also comes from the narrative, the human element, because collectors don't just buy coins, they buy the stories those coins carry. And a 2000 AD cent with a dramatic off-center strike, bold double die, or rare wrong planchette error tells a story of a fleeting moment in the minting process when something went wrong in just the right way to create a unique piece of art and history. And these are one-of-a-kind accidents, meaning that even among error coins, no two are exactly alike, which makes owning one feel personal and special. And while some people focus solely on ultra-rare coins worth thousands, many collectors take just as much pride in finding mid-range treasures like the $292 2000 AD penny, because it represents an attainable goal for newer collectors and a satisfying addition to advanced collections without breaking the bank. And the excitement builds when you realize that with patience, sharp eyes, and maybe a good magnifying glass, you could be the one to discover a coin like this in circulation, at a coin show, or even in an inherited collection. And the process of searching, identifying, authenticating, and finally holding such a coin in hand is a rewarding experience that connects you to a wider community of enthusiasts who share your passion. And as we've seen, the value of the 2000 OD penny comes from a delicate interplay between rarity, condition, type of error, and collector demand, meaning that any given example could be worth only face value, a few dollars, or, in the case of those with high-grade, dramatic errors, as much as $292, and so the next time you come across a 2000 OD penny, take the time to examine it carefully, checking for doubling, misalignment, odd shapes, clipped edges, unusual metal tones, or anything else that sets it apart from the rest, because you never know. You might just be holding a small but valuable piece of numismatic history, and if you've enjoyed diving into this world where tiny details transform common coins into treasures, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss more fascinating stories from the world of coins and currency. Today we are going to explore the remarkable story of the 1987 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin that many people have probably handled countless times without a second thought, yet in certain rare cases this humble piece of currency can be worth as much as $422 due to the unusual errors, minting mistakes, and rare variations that have captured the attention of numismatists and collectors worldwide. And while 1987 might not seem like an especially historic year at first glance, it was a time when the United States Mint was operating at high capacity, producing billions of cents for circulation at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with the Philadelphia coins bearing no mint mark and the Denver coins featuring the small "Dth" mint mark beneath the date on the obverse. And the design remained the long-running Lincoln Memorial cent created by Victor David Brenner for the obverse and Frank Gasparo's rendering of the Lincoln Memorial for the reverse, and by 1987 the copper-plated zinc composition that had replaced the traditional 95% copper planchets in 1982 was fully standard, meaning the coins were made with a zinc core clad in a very thin layer of pure copper, and while this change successfully reduced production costs, it also introduced new potential for minting issues and long-term problems such as plating bubbles, peeling, and exposed zinc, which in certain cases created collectible anomalies. And when we talk about a 1987 penny being worth $422, we are usually looking at one of a few specific scenarios. The coin may have been struck with a dramatic and rare mint error, may exist in an exceptionally high mint state grade certified by a professional grading service, or may be an unusual variety that has gained attention from specialists, and one of the most common and desirable error types for this year is the double die, which occurs when the working die receives two misaligned impressions from the hub, causing the design element on the coin, such as the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust," to appear doubled, and in strong examples this doubling can be seen with the naked eye and is crisp rather than blurry, with collectors paying substantial premiums for coins that show this error clearly and are in high-grade condition. And another error that can raise the value significantly is an off-center strike, where the blank planchet was improperly fed into the coining press so that the die struck the design off-center, leaving part of the coin blank and the rest showing a partial design, and the degree of off-center matters greatly to collectors, with more dramatic examples, especially those that still show a complete date, commanding higher prices. And then there are broad strikes, which occur when a coin is struck without the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal from spreading outward, causing the coin to be wider than normal with a smooth, distorted edge. And while broad strikes are not as visually striking as some errors, they are still sought after, particularly when they are combined with other errors or are in pristine condition, and perhaps the most dramatic and valuable errors come in the form of wrong planchet strikes, where a 1987 cent was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, such as a dime or foreign coin, resulting in a coin that is either smaller or larger than normal and missing portions of its design due to size differences and wrong planchet. Errors can push the value of a 1987 penny well into the hundreds or even higher depending on rarity. And another error to look for is the clip planchet, where a section of the coin is missing due to an error in punching the blanks from the metal strip, creating a distinct crescent-shaped cutout on the edge of the coin. And when such clips are large and clean, they are highly collectible, and die cracks and cuds, raised lines or blobs of metal caused by breaks in the die, also add interest. With large, dramatic cuds being particularly popular among specialists, and in the context of the copper-plated zinc cents, plating errors such as large blisters, peeling, or exposed zinc can also be collectible if they are clearly the result of the minting process rather than post-mint damage. And while plating bubbles are common, extremely large or oddly shaped bubbles can make a coin stand out, especially if they occur in prominent areas of the design, and the value of any error coin is also heavily influenced by its condition, with coins graded mint state 65, MS65, or higher by professional services like PCGS or NGC commanding the most attention and highest prices, and the top population coins, those with the highest grades known, often draw competitive bidding in auctions, driving prices far above typical levels, and even without major errors. An absolutely flawless 1987 cent with full original luster, no contact marks, and sharp details can be worth far more than face value, and this is where the $422 figure becomes realistic for coins with either rare errors in excellent condition or exceptionally high grades with eye appeal, and part of what makes the 1987 penny interesting is that while billions were minted, most entered circulation quickly and were subject to heavy wear, meaning truly pristine examples are far scarcer than the total mintage suggests. And another intriguing aspect is that the Denver Mint, in particular, had a tendency to produce minor variations and anomalies that, while not all valuable individually, have created a subset of coins from that year that attract collector interest, and when you consider how many of these coins have been lost, damaged, or corroded over the decades, the survival of an error coin in high grade becomes even more remarkable, and the stories these coins carry add to their appeal, because each minting error represents a tiny moment in the complex and precise process of coin production when something went unexpectedly wrong, creating a piece that is truly unique, and for collectors, owning such a coin is like holding a piece of mint history that can never be replicated, and this uniqueness fuels demand, particularly among error coin enthusiasts who enjoy building collections based on specific types of mistakes, such as a full set of off-center strikes or a variety of double dies from different years. And while the average person might overlook a 1987 penny as just another old coin, those who know what to look for can spot the telltale signs of an error and recognize its potential value, and the thrill of finding such a coin, whether in pocket change, a coin roll from the bank, or an inherited collection, is part of what keeps the hobby vibrant and exciting. And for anyone hoping to find a $422 1987 penny, the key is careful examination under good lighting and possibly with magnification, looking closely at the date, lettering, and design elements for doubling, checking the shape and size of the coin for off-center strikes or broad strikes, inspecting the edges for clips, and feeling the surface for unusual textures that might indicate plating errors. And while the odds of finding one are small, they are not zero, which is why treasure hunters and collectors keep searching, because even after decades, rare coins still turn up in the most unexpected places. And the market for these coins is supported by both seasoned collectors who appreciate the rarity and quality of a fine error coin and new collectors drawn to the idea that something as small and common as a penny could be worth hundreds of dollars, and this combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand is what ultimately drives the price, and it's also a reminder of how rich and intricate the world of coin collecting can be, where every coin has a story, and sometimes that story involves a tiny imperfection that transforms it into a treasure. And if you find joy in learning about these fascinating intersections of history, art, and chants that turn everyday change into valuable collectibles, then make sure to like this video and subscribe so you can join us for more incredible journeys into the hidden treasures of coins and currency.